Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander Score studio. Welcome to the show. So, in case you missed it yesterday, well, some massive Commander news came out. Wizards revealed the Commander bracket system, the beta version of it, and actually what game changers are and how that integrates with the system. If you haven't seen the episode, make sure you check it out for my thoughts on all of that. On today's episode, I'm going to be breaking down what the game changers are and why they're on the list. So, let's start off with, well, excessive card advantage cards. First up, Ristic Study. When it comes to the definition of the game changers, here's what EDH Rex page has to say. These cards dramatically warp Commander games, whether having players run away with the resources, shift in ways many players dislike, cause people to not be able to play the game, really efficiently search for their strongest cards, or commanders that tend to be only built in ways that take away from more casual games. So, Ristic Study would be kind of like one of the run away with the game when it comes to excessive card advantage cards. It's an enchant for 3 mana in blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless the player pays 1. It's kind of also on the, like, hey, makes the game annoying spectrum of that as well. So there are definitely cards in this list that, you know, fit in one bucket or multiple buckets in a way. And yeah, Ristic Study should not be surprising to be seen on the card advantage, portion of the game changers list. And when it comes to, again, the decks that can utilize it, when it comes to the Commander brackets, 1 and 2 levels, Exhibition and Core, no game changers at all. 3 upgraded, up to 3 game changers, and then 4 and 5, no restrictions at all. So, okay, just keep that in mind. Moving on. The One Ring, most definitely a game-changing card. Ledger artifact for 4, indestructible, enters the battlefield. If you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. Beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each bird encounter on it. And, by the way, put a bird encounter on it. Draw a card for each bird encounter on the One Ring. This is a card that can definitely warp a game. Yeah, excessive card advantage for that player, of course, but also it can be incredibly annoying. Again, basically a way to get protection from absolutely everything. And again, it's on like a cast trigger, so just, okay, you get it back to your hand somehow by maybe bouncing it, and you do it again, and again, and again. So yeah, again, kind of like Ristic Study, it is, again, excessive advantage that you run away with the game, and also annoyance. That is definitely something. Next up, Trouble in Pairs. One that I was surprised to see on this list. It can grant a good amount of card advantage, obviously, but like, yeah, it's not obviously like Ristic Study-ish either. Okay, an enchantment for 4 mana in white. But opponent would begin extra turn, and that player skips that turn instead. Whenever an opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, draws their second card each turn, or casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. Yes, okay, the amount of card advantage on this can be quite good. Really, really, really good. And maybe it does deserve to be on this list. It's just kind of the other ones above it, you know, punch a little bit higher. Like Ristic Study, in my opinion, is like, oh, okay, that's problematic. This one is very, very good, obviously, but yeah, apparently notable enough for Wizards to put it on the list. I wouldn't say this is like an annoying card like Ristic Study is, because again, it's like there's no option. You can't be like, will you pay the 1? Will you pay the 1? It's more so just running with card advantage. Making the players skip the extra turns is like not, you know, that's not a deterrent from this card being played. Okay. Ad nauseum. An instant for 5 mana in black. Reveal the top card of your library and put that card in your hand. You lose life equal to mana cost. You may repeat this process any number of times. This is a card that is just, hey, draw an absurd amount of cards. An absurd amount of excessive card advantage. Again, you're playing a format with Commander where, yeah, you have 40 life. That's a ton of life. And of course, there's easy ways to gain a lot of life too. And also, you could build your deck in a way where this just draws your entire library because you don't really have a lot of mana value in that deck either. So, yeah, excessive card advantage out of nowhere, instant speed. I can see why it made this list. Moving on, though, for the final card I'm going to be bringing up in the excessive card advantage category, Bolas's Citadel. Card advantage in a different way, but yeah, definitely good. Ledger artifact for 6 mana in black. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You play the top card of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to convert mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. Tap, sacrifice 10 non-life permanents. Each opponent loses 10 life. Even if it didn't have that last part on there, it would still be in this category, I believe, or it'd still be a game changer, I believe. Basically, again, excessive card advantage. Yeah, play up the top of your library essentially for free. Again, we talked about how life is a resource in Commander. Use it. You got 40, and you'll probably have more. And of course, if you hit cards off the top of your library that, like, gain you life, like, oh, I hit Gary. Okay, I play Gary. I drain my opponents for a ton. All of a sudden, I get a bunch of life. For those of you that don't know, Great Merchant of Asphodel, Gary. Okay, anyways. Yeah, and all of a sudden, I'm back up at the very least 15 life, essentially, because Bolas's Citadel has, 3 pips too. yeah, and then you just keep going and going and going and going and going. Obviously, there's some combos that work with this too, so that is kind of the other portion of this, where this is excessive card advantage plus combo potential, like Sensei's Divining Top shenanigans. So yeah, have fun with that. Okay, so when it comes to extra card advantage, these are the cards that stand out. Moving on, when it comes to game changers, there is one that is on the list for being extra turnsy, and that would be Expropriate. Now, when it comes to extra turns, that and actually like Mass Land Destruction and Land Denial, quote unquote, were the ones that were kind of covered by some of the explanations for the different categories. It's interesting that they included Expropriate actually in the game changers too, and we'll talk about other cards at some point in other episodes where it's like, okay, should that have been a game changer or will it be? Again, the list is not finalized. The actual bracket thing is not finalized. It will be apparently finalized late April, though, so we shall see. Okay, anyways, extra turns are mentioned again in Exhibition and Core tiers 1 and 2. No extra turns for Exhibition, actually tier 1. No chaining extra turns for 2, and actually 3 is no chaining extra turns as well. Expropriate is kind of a weird one where it's like technically not chaining extra turns, but it has the potential, obviously. Sorcery for 9 mana in total in blue. Council's Dilemma starting with you. Each player votes for time or money. For each time vote, take an extra turn for this one. For each money vote, choose a permanent owned by the voter and gain control of it. Exile it. I don't know if I've really seen a game where the player who casts this loses, and I think that's probably more so why it's on this list. It's more so like extra turns, but just wins the game card. And that's on the Game Changers list. And at some point, I'm going to be doing an episode where I talk about like cards that are currently banned that very well might come off and would fit in this exact same category of you cast it and you probably win the game. But yeah, if you put it in the Game Changers, it's probably eligible to be in here like Expropriate is, where it's not banned entirely. So yeah, this is basically like a single extra turn spell, quote unquote, but you're also stealing 3 things. Or if you're the opponent of this card and you make the mistake to actually just be like, oh yeah, sure, here, take an extra turn instead of stealing one of my things, then that is chaining extra turns and you lose the game. I mean, you're going to lose the game anyways. But yeah, basically, they didn't include like any of the other extra turn spells on the Game Changers list at all. And there's one notable one that I'm like, maybe they should have. But again, they kind of cover their bases for the most part with those extra turns with the explanations in each of the categories. So that's probably what they're thinking. Whereas this is more so just like a quote unquote, I win the game by casting 1 spell card. So that's probably why this one's on this list. Moving on to our next section of cards, and that is going to be fast mana. So when it came to kind of how all of this came about, it kind of actually is because of fast mana that this all came about, right? Like the end of last year, we had some bannings. Nadu, that was understandable and definitely should have happened. Probably should have even happened before it even came out. Dockside Extortionist had been discussed for years it was going to get banned, but then Jeweled Lotus and Mana Crypt were kind of out of nowhere, and that's when all the kind of kerfuffle happened, essentially. And then because of all of that, Wizards is now in control of the format, and now, yeah, here are the cards that are in the actual fast mana category on the Game Changers list. And yeah, these are cards that, like, Wizards said, you know, if something is going to get banned in the future, most likely it wouldn't be something outside of the Game Changers list. It would be something here, but again, like, do they bring other fast mana things back? Well, that's another discussion for a different day. But Ancient Tomb, a land that has tap 2 colorless mana to your mana pool, it deals 2 damage to you. Ow, 2 damage. Oh no. Again, like in a standard format, in a regular format, you got 20 life. That's 1/10 of your life total. It takes a little bit more to actually, you know, utilize that card like this. Commander, it's like, okay, I'm down to 38. Oh no. Yeah, again, it's 1/20 of your life total. So yeah, it's basically, again, a land that counts for 2. On its own, it is incredibly fast, obviously. Chrome Mox, basically any of the ones that say Mox, yeah, should probably be considered, depending. An artifact for 0, imprint, enters the battlefield. You may exile a non-artifact, non-land card from your hand, tap, add 1 mana of any of the exile cards' colors to your mana pool. So yeah, this is just very fast mana. This is a card that you can play for free. It is extra mana for you. You do have to get rid of something out of your hand to do so, but still, it's going to be worth doing that the vast majority of the time, of course. So yeah, again, fast mana. Mox Diamond. Artifact for 0 comes into play. Choose discard a land card or sacrifice it. Tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Place ability only as a mana source. Again, basically to say, oh, okay, get rid of 1 land in your hand. This is essentially a land in play for you immediately. So again, getting way ahead on mana is something that Wizards is obviously noting with these game changers, not outright banning them, and we again might see some unbans at some point for some other cards that maybe kind of fit this mold, but we shall see. Mana Vault, yeah, this is one where it was like when Mana Crypt got banned, I was like, oh, okay, so Mana Crypt is banned, but not Mana Vault. Interesting, and the Mana Crypt is better than Mana Vault, but still. Artifact for 1 doesn't untap during an untap step. Beginning of your upkeep, you may pay 4 if you do untap it. Beginning of your draw step, if it's tapped, it deals 1 image to you, and it taps for 3. Yeah, basically just a big bursty. It's kind of, I mean, here's the thing with this one, it's like fast mana, but also kind of more so a ritual in a way, like, because it's like, okay, I play it for 1 and I tap immediately, and it's kind of like Dark Ritual in that way, which, not to spoil things, but Dark Ritual is not on this list. That being said, obviously, if you've got other ways to untap this, you don't have to pay to untap it, then yeah, it can do some absurd things, and it's just really quick mana as well. Or it doesn't even matter, sometimes you just play it right away, and you get other things out. Similarly with Grim Monolith, Artifact for 2, doesn't untap during a tap phase, tap to add 3 colorless mana, and pay 4 to untap it. There are some combos with that as well, but yeah, more so, again, just like a burst of mana, and also, of course, if you've got ways to untap artifacts or bounce them back to your hand, which there are plenty of ways to do so, plenty of ways to take advantage of that, yeah, that is incredibly fast mana that you can use in abuse. So, yeah, 5 cards in this category, and very well at some point there might be more, maybe because of some unbannings, but we shall see. Okay, in a somewhat similar category, but I wanted to kind of put these in separate categories. This is great mana advantage. So again, fast mana was the ones that was like, oh yeah, immediately turn 1, like boom, okay? Gaia's Cradle, technically, yeah, you could have a turn 1, like, I dump all these 0 mana creatures into play, yay! I'd say more so this is just, yeah, a land that is absolutely absurd. It can get there quickly. It's not as quick as, say, again, like a Mox, though. Legendary land, it taps for green to your mana pool for each creature you control. It's dependent on you getting creatures into play, but obviously that's very easy to do. And it's just a land that gives you an absurd mana advantage over your opponents just by playing a singular land. Be like, oh, well, I guess I've got 10 creatures in play. I did nothing for this value. Okay, next up. Sarah's Sanctum. Similar vein, obviously, as Gaia's Cradle, just not nearly as powerful, typically. Legendary land, tap for a white to your mana pool for each enchantment you control. Enchantments, very, very good. Of course, there's certain commanders out there that can get a lot of enchantments into play very quickly as well. It's just not as typical as getting a ton of creatures into play usually. So that's just kind of why, like, this is like a slightly less version of Gaia's Cradle, but still, yeah, in the same vein, it is also a game changer, so apparently it's at the same level. I mean, kind of. But yes, in the exact same category as well. Again, an absurd amount of mana advantage. Next up, Jeska's Will. Basically a mass ritual effect that you can get out super early, and also get some card advantage, temporary card advantage with this too. Source for 3 mana. Choose one if you control 8 commanders, you cast this spell, you may choose both. Add red for each card in target opponent's hand. Exile top 3 cards of your library, play them this turn. Yeah, if you get your commander down early, if you've got something like Rograk or whatever, which is a free commander, this is just, oh yeah, free, get both parts of it, essentially. But yeah, this is 3 mana, makes 7, typically. So yeah, you get an absurd amount of value very, very quickly, very, very bursty, and then also potentially that card advantage as well. A very, very powerful card used in higher-end decks. And finally, yeah, I kind of want to include this one with like with Rhystic Study-ish, because they're the same thing but on different ends of the spectrum. Smothering Tithe. Enchantment for 4 mana in white. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player may pay 2. If they don't, you make a treasure. Yeah, this is just an absurdly powerful card. Again, giving you excessive mana advantage throughout the game. It's also incredibly annoying. So yeah, it helps you run away with the game. It's incredibly annoying, and it also is, I mean, not combo-y, I guess, but yeah, kind of combo-y, because you can easily chain together, like, wheel after wheel after wheel. You cast a wheel, everyone, discards, draws. Oh, everyone drew 7? Okay, opponents, pay a total of, 42 mana? Or I'm, making a ton of treasures, because you just drew 21 cards, in total, right? 7 each. Yeah, so pay all that mana. Oh, you can't pay all that mana? Okay, cool. I get 40 probably treasures or so, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm going to cast another wheel. Okay, let's do that again. Yeah, so it is combo-y, it's incredibly annoying, and you run away with the game. Yes, Smothering Tithe definitely deserved to be in the Game Changers list, and yeah, it is a great mana advantage effect. Moving on to our next category, incredibly efficient tutors. Now, every single tutor in Magic was not listed in, the Game Changers. Although they do list, when it comes to tutors, they actually list out in Exhibition and Core few tutors, which I think I saw clarified somewhere, it's 3 or less tutors, typically, but actually none of these tutors I'm going to be listing. because, yeah, apparently these are just so efficient that they are being pointed out as something that is kind of above other tutors, which is completely understandable, though there are certain ones that might be missing that I'd be like, why is that one not on here, but this one is? Enlightened Tutor is one, though, instant for a single white mana. Search your life for an artifact or enchantment card, reveal it, then shuffle your library, put that card on top. Yeah, it's a very good tutor. Obviously, it's a single mana, which is absurd. Instant speed. Sure, you don't get to your hand, but still, like, you're gonna draw into it, and it can search for, again, artifacts or enchantments. Very relevant things. Obviously, Mystical Tutor along the same lines, the exact same thing, but in blue, and for instants or sorceries. So again, incredibly efficient. Comes to that, obviously, black has one, too. Probably the best of these. Definitely the best of these. Vampiric Tutor. Single black mana, search life for any card. Shuffle your library, put that card on top, you lose 2 life. Yeah, again, in another format, still, I mean, you're willing to do that. In other formats, with 20 life going down to 18, but in, like, Commander, it's like, oh, I'm down to 38. Who cares? It's an incredibly powerful tutor. Imperial Seal, the exact same thing, but slower. Still on this list, obviously. Sorcery for a single black mana. There's life for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top. You lose 2 life. Incredibly efficient, incredibly effective tutor. Demonic Tutor, obviously. I don't know how this was ever an uncommon, but apparently it was. Sorcery for 2 mana in black. Any card out of your library right in your hand. This is just, again, literally any card in your library plus 2 mana immediately in your hand. So yeah, just, gosh, this situation's really bad right now. I need a Wrath. Let me go get the perfect one and just pay basically 2 extra mana to cast it. That's essentially all you are doing, obviously. So, yeah, it's incredibly powerful. Survival of the Fittest. This one was interesting to include, but definitely a worthy include as well. Enchant for 2 mana in green. Pay a single green mana. Choose and discard a creature card. Search life for a creature card. Reveal that card to all players and put it in your hand. Then shuffle your library afterwards. Basically, yeah, all you have to do is just discard one creature to go get another one. It's repeatable. It's absurdly cheap to do so. And, of course, there's some combos that work well with it as well. Yeah, it's an interesting include because it's, like, unlike the other tutors. And there's also a certain green tutor that was not included in this list. You know, unlike Enlightened Tutor or, Mystical or Vampiric. Worldly Tutor, anyone? I think that's the name of that one. Anyways, but yeah, Survival of the Fittest included. Makes sense. Absurdly repeatable tutor. Okay, moving on to our next section, OP Commanders. Very interesting because they did highlight, and here's just in this section, I've got 5 highlighted, and there are other commanders that are listed. We'll talk about those on a later one, I promise. We'll get to them. But Kin and Bond of Prodigy is definitely one that's like, oh, yeah, that is kind of like top of the class when it comes to an OP commander. And yeah, it is one that definitely stands out as something that's like, oh, if you're literally just building with this one, your deck cannot be a 1 or 2. It is literally at least a 3 because 1 or 2, Exhibition and Core, the commander brackets, they can't have any game changers in the deck. And 3 says, okay, up to 3. So automatically, because you're playing this as your commander, it is a game changer. So there you go. And most likely you probably have it as a 4 because you most likely have a 2-card combo immediately with this because this combos with a lot of things. A 2/2 Human Druid for 2 mana in Simic. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produce. By paying 7 mana in Simic, look at the top 5 cards of your library and we put a non-human creature card from among them on the battlefield. Put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, this is one where, okay, cool. I've got, just any kind of mana source that's not land. Great, I double that up, basically. Not double it up, but you get an extra. But for most things that are tapping for 1, it doubles it up. And of course, with certain things like Assault Monolith, Infinite Combo Bear, and it's also like a way to, when I'm getting all the successive mana or infinite mana, I can just dump it into this and then just drop my entire library, kind of. I mean, of creatures, of non-human creatures right on the battlefield. Some combos there, too. Yeah, and it's low to the ground, too. Like, this is just an absurdly powerful commander. Next up, Yuriko the Tiger's Shadow. Yeah, up there as well, obviously. One of the most popular commanders of all time as well. So, congratulations, everyone that has a Yuriko deck. Your deck is now automatically a 3. Probably a 4, too. A 1/3 Human Ninja for 3 mana in Dimir, but you'll never pay that, essentially. Commander Ninjutsu for just 2 mana. You skip commander text completely just by using Commander Ninjutsu. Whenever a ninja you control deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top card of your library and put that card in your hand. Each opponent loses life equal to that card's mana value. This is crazy good. It is a commander that, again, just skips commander tax. You never have to pay it, essentially, and you very easily get a lot of card advantage. And while you're doing that, you are draining your opponents for a ton. So, yeah, it's a very good commander. And, of course, like, cards like, Vampiric Tutor that can, like, tutor things to put them on top of the library to get the exact card that you want to drain your opponents with and get in your hand. Yeah, that's why this one also, a lot of them are probably going to be 4s because you're using very powerful cards with it as well. Urza Lord High Officer, not surprised to see this on this list. Actually, I'm wrong on that, sorry. One of the only monocolored cards. I just messed up right there, but yeah, it's like, it is the one that stands out the most, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, like when it comes to commanders are going to be in the game changers, like Urza came to my mind first, and I was like, it might be the only monocolored. Oh wait, never mind. There are other ones that are definitely going to be on there. Okay, but Urza Lord High Officer, yeah, is kind of like, in my opinion, like the very start of the OP commanders, as in recent modern years, where it's like, oh, okay, this is just a different level, essentially. A 1/4 Human Artificer for 4 mana in blue. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1 for each artifact you control. It's like a throwaway piece of this for no reason. Like, why did they have to put that on there? They just did. Tap an untapped artifact you control at blue. If it just said that, this would still be probably on here. It's absurd. And by the way, pay 5, shuffle your library, then exile the top card until end of turn. You may play that card with paying its mana cost. So again, it gives you basically, hey, every single one of your artifacts is a mana rock that you can tap right away. Perfect. Great. Even your like artifact creatures you can tap right away. They don't have to have haste because the actual ability is on this. It's not granting it to the actual artifact creatures. And then, of course, yeah, there's some combos with it. And yeah, it's got the mana sink for it as well. It's just an absurdly powerful commander. So yeah, if you have an Urza deck, it is at the very least a 3. Yeah, no matter what, which is probably pretty fair, because you could just like grab like a handful of miscellaneous artifacts and just chuck them at an Urza deck, and it would probably still function incredibly well. Winota join your forces, a 4/4 human warrior for 4 mana in Boros. Whenever a non-human creature control attacks, like a top 6 card of your library, they put a human creature card from among them on the battlefield, tap, then attacking. It gains indestructible on turn. Put the rest cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is one where, yeah, you're just cheating things into play quite easily, quite quickly, and chaining things. You probably have a bunch of extra combats as well, and you're going to have a really long turn. And yeah, it's just cheating a bunch of things into play very, very quickly. Very, very powerful things as well. Yeah, you're doing some pretty crazy things with the noted joiner forces. Moving on, Turgid, God of Salt, on this list for many reasons. Most notably, I would think, just because it is incredibly powerful, yes, but it is one of the most, if not the most annoying commander of all time. Like, it just is up there. It is absolutely obnoxious. They did not need to make an it that betrays for the command zone, and they did. And they made it 5 mana. And then it also combos on the back. Okay, lots of reasons this one's on the list, but yeah, OP commander. Let's just talk about that. 4/5 God with Menace for 5 mana in black. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent card, you may put that card from a graveyard on the battlefield under your control. Okay, so also this is like, obviously encouraging you to go into certain strategies that are kind of frowned upon by certain play groups out there, like, oh yeah, just repeat mass discard, repeat mass sacrifice. Yay, I stole all your things. It's way too easy. This commander is too easy. It's overpowered. It's obnoxious. And on the backside, for like no reason, they're like, let's just put an infinite combo, enabler on the back. Ha 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 ha. Ledger artifact for 4 in black. Tap, target player loses 3 life unless they sacrifice a non-land permanent or discard a card. Pay 4 mana, essentially untap it. Yeah, if you've got infinite black mana, you just win the game just by playing the backside of the commander that is already OP. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons again. But the main reason probably is just, it's a very powerful commander, yes, but it is absolutely obnoxious to play against, so not surprised to see it as a game changer. Next up, powerful combo cards. Okay, so first up, we've got, obviously, Thassa's Oracle. I mean, something that is just synonymous with the word combo, basically, and one that is very hard to stop. It's usually seeing play in, like, higher-end commander play, essentially, so yeah, it's pretty understandable that you're not going to play this as a 1 or 2, usually, when it comes to the actual commander brackets. That being said, Thassa's Oracle, a 1/3 Merfolk Wizard for 2 mana in blue. When it enters the battlefield, the top X card your library, X is your devotion to blue. Put up to 1 of them on the top of your library. Rest of the bottom of your library in random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you win the game. Basically, Lab Maniac, but on an ETB and really hard to stop, essentially. So this combo is obviously with a lot of things, but yeah, Demonic Consultation. You just get rid of your library. You don't need a library. You win the game. That's basically what this is. So yeah, excessively powerful combo pieces. They are definitely getting pointed out in this. Underworld Breach is another one that's kind of similar, I'd say, to Thassa's Oracle, where, again, you don't typically see Thassa's Oracle or Underworld Breach in, like, casual commander play for the most part. It's usually, like, more CEDH-y. Enchantment for 2 mana in red. Each non-land card in your graveyard has escape. The escape cost equal to the card's mana cost. Plus, exile 3 other cards in your graveyard at the beginning of your end step. Sacrifice Underworld Breach. So basically this is, yeah, I mean, you get an absurd amount of value out of your graveyard, and of course, just, yeah, there are certain combos that work well with it. and you just probably win the game from there. So yeah, excessive combo pieces. Lion's Eye Diamond, I think, actually works with Underworld Breach, ironically. I was pointing out in here. This one is, like, in 2 categories again, and some of these are, like, this is, like, fast mana / combo piece. Artifact for 0, tap, sacrifice it, discard your hand, add 3 mana, any one color to mana pool. Only use mana source. Yeah, this is kind of like, I mean, it's like a Black Lotus, but like you have to get rid of your hand, so obviously that's a downside, but can be an upside with certain things. And yeah, it is fast mana, but it also is a combo piece that you can keep recurring, getting back, and doing again and again and again and again and again. Yeah, I think Underworld Breach has some combos with it too, but still. Ironically, I didn't expect to see this one on the list, but Glacial Chasm, it's hilarious. I mean, it's hilarious that it's on the list compared to some of the other cards. A land that has cumulative upkeep 2. Comes into play, sacrifice a land, you can attack, and basically prevent all damage dealt to you. This is a card that is kind of combo-y because, like, yeah, there's a downside to it, but sometimes that downside, number one, doesn't matter too much. The cumulative upkeep keeps building, obviously. You lose 2 life, then the next turn you lose 4 life, the next turn you lose, 6. It keeps building again and again and again and again. But here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, there's ways that you just, like, keep replaying it. Like, if you've got, like, Azusa and, like, Ramanep Excavator or whatever, like, you've got ways to play lands out of your graveyard and keep playing lands. You just keep getting this back, and you're not losing, like, basically any life for it. You just keep, like, sacrificing, getting it back, sacrificing, getting it back, sacrificing, getting it back. And all of a sudden, your opponents can't deal any damage to you. So it's kind of like a lock combo, I guess, if your opponents have no way to stop it or no way to take you out outside of damage, too. So it's interesting that this one solved the list. It's kind of more so, it's like, it also is an annoying card in a way, especially for a format where, again, it's like, not encouraged to utilize ways to get rid of lands. Yeah, like, how many ways are out there that, like, exile a land? So, I mean, there's certain ones that, like, exile any permanent, sure, but, like, most removal isn't doing that. So, like, trying to stop this, if the player is getting it going and getting the combo going, or, like, doesn't care about their life total somehow as well, then cool. Yeah, it's very, very, very difficult to stop. So, yeah, annoying combo-ish. Moving on. Now, there's only 2 in this category, surprisingly, but maybe unsurprisingly, because they kind of put the best ones in there, but powerful, free counterspells. There are more counterspells out there. What is it, like Force of Negation or whatever, but there are more. There are also other powerful free counterspells out there, too. They put 2 on the list for now. We'll see if that changes over time, but yeah, Fierce Guardianship, yeah, duh. Instant for 3 mana in blue. If you control a commander, you may cast the spell paying its mana cost, counter target non-creature spell. It's obnoxious. It's a free counter spell. I mean, again, if you're playing commander, you probably have your commander out, and it's like, oh, I get a free negate for no reason. Cool, good for me. And it only costs 1 more if you actually have to hardcast it, so it's really not all that bad. But it's like, oh darn, my commander got dealt with. I can still use it. Yeah, it's a crazy powerful counter spell, and it's free and kind of obnoxious. So yeah, there's a reason why it's a game changer. Force of Will. Instant for 5 mana, but you're probably never going to pay that. You may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand with a pay spell's mana cost, counter target spell. Again, if you're just tapped out, it doesn't matter. You can still utilize it. Getting rid of 1 blue card from your hand is not that big of a deal. Of course, there are other ones out there, like, what was it? I say Force of Negation? I think that's one too, but Pact of Negation, right, is another one that wasn't on this list. That one does have a, downside. We have to pay mana the next, upkeep, essentially, to not lose the game. There are other ones that could have been placed on this list. These 2 make sense to be placed on the list, though. But yeah, free counterspell is definitely something that can be game-changing and also kind of annoying and kind of obnoxious. And at a more casual table, it's like, oh, okay, like, I thought I was good to cast my thing, but, yeah, just out of nowhere, you were tapped out, and you just have one of these free counterspells, and it's kind of obnoxious. So yeah, you have to at least be playing it at a 3 or higher to play these cards. Next up, now this is like the quote-unquote Staxy category, essentially, when it comes to, like, you can't do that, kind of things, essentially, or, like, you gotta pay extra to do that, or, yeah, I mean, and kind of like, in this, I've made this argument in the past before, but, I mean, Ristic Study and Smothering Tide kind of Stax adjacent-ish too, right? I mean, they give you the option, but still. So they kind of covered, again, like, stacks and, like, mass land destruction, essentially. So that's why you're not seeing a lot of game changers that are those cards. Again, with, like, their, literally from 1, 2, and 3, they all say, no mass land denial, no mass land denial, no mass land denial. And that kind of also covers, like, certain, again, obviously mass land destruction, but also some Staxy pieces, too, like Smokestack as well. Drannith Magistrate is obviously, like, in that same vein-ish when it comes to, like, you can't do certain things. It's an obnoxious card in Commander because, well, commanders exist. A 1/3 human wizard for 2 mana in white. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands, which, of course, includes the commander. So, yeah, the command zone. You can't cast your commander, opponents. It's an obnoxious card. Yeah, it makes sense that it's not a card that you typically see in casual, but yeah, so it's kind of, by putting it on this list, it's like, yeah, this is not a card for 1 or 2. 3, maybe not even. Like, this is like, I don't know. Again, like, Mass Land Denial, like, that doesn't cover this technically, but, like, I think Stax pieces in general are just like, yeah, you probably should just keep that essentially outside of 1, 2, and probably 3 as well. Moving on. Tabernacle, Pendrel Veil, an absurdly expensive card, but also, yeah, a Stax piece. Legendary land, all creatures now require an upkeep cost of 1 to show their upkeep cost you have, basically, and you have to sacrifice it if not. So basically, you gotta pay an extra 1 on your upkeep to keep your creatures around, and this is literally just on a land. It is annoying, it is obnoxious, and it is land denial in a way, because, like, you've got to, like, dedicate resources to not lose creatures, which is just, like, a very obnoxious thing. Next up, Trinisphere. Yeah, again, annoying and also land denial-ish. Artifact for 3. When I say land denial, like, covers, like, kind of, like, yeah, excessive resource kind of hampering, I guess. Artifact for 3, as long as it's untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast. Yeah, so basically, again, everything costs more if you've got low mana cost spells, and the player that has this in play either doesn't have those spells, or again, has a way to tap this to really take advantage of it, so that, like, oh, I can get around that. Cool. Kind of like Winter Orb-ish. Which, ironically, again, not listed on the Game Changers, but again, is kind of covered from the, like, no Mass Land Denial. So yeah, I think with this category, it's pretty interesting where it's like, yeah, they included these cards in Game Changers, because it's like they kind of are adjacent to no Mass Land Denial, but, like, kind of, but not, I guess. Opposition Agent, though, a 3/2 human rogue with flash for 3 mana and black. You control your opponents while they're searching libraries. While an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. Spend mana as don't remember any color to cast them. Again, like a hate bear effect. So I guess I'm including like hate bear / Stax pieces kind of all in this, all entwined in one. Kind of really annoying things that either slow down the game or like stop you from doing things. That's just kind of what this category is. Yeah, you take control of your opponents during their tutoring, which means that, you flash this in, you steal something most likely, number 1. Number 2, your opponents literally can't ramp with lands anymore, or they can't even use fetch lands anymore too, which are like the 2 biggest things out of all of that. So yeah, again, Staxy pieces, hate bear pieces, definitely gonna see in this one, and also with our next category, again, I already talked about, like, OP push commanders, but now with these next ones, it's going to be more so, like, Staxy commanders, but also cards that you would probably see in the 99 as well of, like, a Stax strategy of, that Mass Land Denial kind of thing, too. A 2/3 Human Advisor for 4 mana, Grand Arbiter Augustin the 4th in Azorius. White spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Blue spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And by the way, spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast. Yeah, again, Stax. You are forcing your opponents to cast things for a more expensive amount. You definitely have other ways to do that as well. You have ways to slow your opponents down on top of that with a commander like this. It makes sense that this is, at the very least, a 3. Again, if you have this as your commander, your deck is a 3 no matter what, essentially. And on top of that, it helps you reduce the cost of your things, which is crazy. So there you go. But if it's in the deck as well, deck's a 3. Vorinclex, Voice of Hunger. 7/6 Praetor with Trample for 8 mana in green. Whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana to your mana pool of any type that land produced. Double up your mana, but also the reason why this is actually on the list is because whenever an opponent taps a land for mana, the land doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Again, basically a Stax piece in a way. Land denial, that is kind of within the category. So it's kind of interesting, like, when they actually include this on the Game Changers list, when it is, like, land denial. Kind of like, I mean, Tabernacle kind of is-ish, but, like, I understand in a way, but, like, you could just, like, okay, all these cards are Game Changers. I don't know. It's interesting, like, I don't know, because... yeah, I guess I don't know. Okay, this is one where you are just saying, hey, opponents, you're going so much slower than I am. I'm doubling up my things. You are having your lands. So, yeah, there you go. Jingataxi's Core Augur. Again, a commander that is like Stax piece in a way. 5/4 Praetor with Flash for 10 mana, but of course there's ways to cheat it out, and like in the 99 as well, plays to cheat it out too. Beginning of your end step, draw 7 cards. Lovely for you. Your opponent's maximum hand size is reduced by 7. Your opponents don't have a hand. So there you go. This is just, hey, I get all the cards, you get none of the cards. If I play this, I probably just win the game too. So yeah, there you go. If it gets through and it gets around and your opponents like can't deal with it and they lose their hands, they're just top decking and they are going to lose the game. So yeah, that is kind of just like Stax-ish adjacent, kind of unfun kind of a card. Yeah, it definitely a game swinging card as well. Okay, and finally, and I kind of predicted this, I believe, but back when kind of all this was announced that like Wizards were taking over the format, and then they were kind of trying to like rank cards and whatever, to put things like 4, 3, 2, 1 or whatever they had previously, and I'm glad they changed that now, and it's like, okay, just Game Changers, and then we have like the brackets separately. That makes more sense, but still, like, check out my most recent episode where I talk about like my thoughts on this in general. But yeah, Cyclonic Rift is kind of in a category on its own, in my opinion. It's an instant for 2 mana in blue, return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, and overload for 7. This is probably just like the best removal. This is like literally just what it is. This is like the best Wrath. There are no other Wraths that are like it. It is flexible, number 1. Number 2, it is completely one-sided and out of nowhere instant speed. So this is one where, again, like, I can see some players out there, again, like, I think initially, like, when they did, like, a community vote on things, too, like, Farewell was a card that showed up, like, in, like, oh, it should be kind of listed up here as a, I think, again, when they had the 3 or 4, but it would have been, like, considered by some to be a game changer, or, oh, gosh, what's the ultimatum? Ruinous Ultimatum, whatever the one is that, like, destroys all non-land permanents. I understand that those are powerful cards, but I don't think that they are game changers anywhere near like a Cyclonic Rift is. It's just not close in my opinion. It just isn't. And I don't think Farewell deserves to be listed as a game changer. Removal is like something that is just it's a part of the format, it's expected, and it's not like it's not swingy in the ways that like all these other cards are swingy, except for Cyclonic Rift, because Cyclonic Rift, again, is not a dead card basically ever, number 1. Number 2, and most importantly, again, it is one-sided, and it is instant speed. Instant speed one-sided, like, that just is why this card is a game changer, whereas all the other removal spells, all the other Wrath effects are not listed in this, essentially. This is a 1 of 1 when it comes to a card in its own category on this Game Changers list, because, again, it is super unique, it is super powerful, it is super swingy, and yes, it's pretty annoying, too. It is kind of like one of those eye-rolly things of like, oh, okay, Cyclonic Rift, great, all right. Probably just win, because, yeah, the card's kind of unfair in a way. So, yeah, this is a card that, again, basically does something that no other removal does, and that's flexible, it's completely one-sided, it's instant speed. It's pretty crazy, so, yeah, that's a reason why this is a game changer. But, again, with this entire list, again, late April, apparently, they're going to be taking feedback from the community. Again, you've got different events like, Command Fest Chicago is going to be coming up shortly, where I'm sure they're going to get a lot of feedback, and they're probably going to be having, if you are going that, just to be like a little heads up, they'll probably, I assume, have like the different sections of the actual, event that have like, okay, here's where the 1 tables are, here's where the 2 tables are, 3, 4, and 5, like for the brackets, and we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, if you've got Cyclonic Rift in your deck, it's a 3. It's automatically a 3, and there's a lot of decks out there that have this, so there you go. And with that, this episode is coming to a close. Make sure you comment below with your thoughts on this one. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.